What's going on, everybody? It's boy the Long Island Fish Guy here. Excuse my hair, but I just got out of the shower. I got my PJs on, but it's been a while since my last 3-tank update. I called it the trifecta, but I think I've coined a name for it because we're not gonna have 3 tanks for long. I think we're gonna call this the Around the Island update for Long Island Fish Guy, aka boy Anthony. So, without further ado, let's get started. Before we get into the individual tanks, let's go into the actual setup here. This right here is my 29-gallon that I've always had, or had for a long time. This tank used to be set up right over here on this side. This is where my current new tank is, my 65-gallon, and the 125 that we always knew was here. Now with the 29-gallon that was over here, we had the 10-gallon tank set up right over here, where I have my bucket and some extra lights, which I'll get into. But now we have the quarantine tank set up underneath the 29-gallon. So we have an a top tank and a bottom tank. Now, the reason why I have these lights over here is because I've actually upgraded all of my lights. This light is it's called Nice Crew. I got it on Amazon. It's actually a really decent light. It wasn't too expensive. I think it was about $37. It's also the same light that is on my 29-gallon. That's a 30-inch tank, and that 65 is actually a 36-inch tank. This is a Beamworks LED light. It's not the color I want, but it's actually a 10K light, where these are actually 65K. So it's a little bit of a whiter light for these, but do what you gotta do. And there's actually just a halogen bulb on there. So that's the setup right now. I'm really happy with the way the lights and the current setup currently are right now. But without further ado, I'm gonna try that's clearly my words for tonight. Let's get into the tanks. Okay, to start off, let's look at the 10-gallon quarantine tank. Now I just fed all these tanks just to see if the fish would all come out. Currently in quarantine, I originally had a Beischer. I had a mistake, and the reason why is that was actually a algae wafer on the ground. I can actually, here we go. I actually got a Beischer in here. This is a Senegal Beischer. Now I actually had that one on the right, and I had him in here with a fish that I currently have in the 125. Now anybody who knows things about Beischers or Bashirs, or there's a lot of different names that people call them. They more so look like that with their pectoral fins. The first Beischer I got its pectoral fins ripped off. I saw it and immediately took the fish that did it and put it into the 125 where it belonged. That fish was kind of not really super aggressive, but as that Beischer is eating one of those algae wafers, and the reason why I have an algae wafer is I'll show you in 1 second. But the Beischer actually got both pectoral fins ripped off. I actually thought it was gonna die. But actually made it, and I really wanted one that was in true form with the pectoral fins, so I got another one. So that's looks like a rope fish almost, and the one in the back there is just the true, Bashir Beischer Senegal. Been doing some work to those algae wafers, but the reason why I actually have an algae wafer in this tank is because that guy right there. That is a Golden Nugget Pleco. Just picked him up today. It's actually kind of expensive, for my liking at least. I don't really like spending, more than $25 on a fish, if it's like kind of rare. But we gotta try and better angle. But if you remember from my quarantine tanks, I had, typically had algae, gravel in them. I wanted to get away from the gravel, just because quarantine tank really shouldn't have gravel in it. The quarantine tank should be really low maintenance. I just added a little bit of decorations with the glass bottom tank, just because I just don't like to have a blank tank with nothing in it. So same decorations as before, took the gravel out. But this tank's doing well. I hope to see that Beischer grow its I don't know what just happened in the 125, but I hope to see that Beischer grow its pectoral fins back. It really should. It wasn't really bitten down at the root, but if it doesn't, oh well. He'll just have a nice little story behind him. Do feel bad about it though, but he's swimming around fine and he looks great still. But the other bichir still, he's doing his thing. They're not really fighting that much, but you'll see where these fish end up. Nothing's set in stone yet. Where those bichirs end up, the golden nugget will most likely, or the gold nugget will most likely end up in the 125. And there's a reason behind that, but we'll get to that in a minute. Next up, the 29-gallon. Now, the 29-gallon, for anybody who's been following my channel for a while, this tank used to be so plagued. It was originally started out as a Asian tank, which is why I actually have this gourami in here. I'm not a gourami guy whatsoever, but that gourami has seen more deaths than a World War II soldier. I'm not laughing at it. It's really sad actually. Really unfortunate. But since I changed this tank out and planted it and did this, it's been absolutely incredible. There's a peacock bass right there. That's from Florida, if you remember watching that video. He's growing nicely. I have a striped pike. They get along so well. We have here a oh my god, what's the name of this fish? It's a Jupari, but the people call them geos. They're not actually geos though. But it's the Jupari. Well, he's gonna end up somewhere. This is actually a holding tank for a lot of fish in here. So this fish is gonna have. That's actually the golden top minnow as well. He's actually. I think he pretends he's a pike sometimes because he shows a little bit of aggression. If you guys remember my eel, he is a savage now. He always swims around this tank. If you remember him from the Asian tank, he always was under the rocks. He was like a nothing fish and so boring. Now he swims around like crazy. He's all over the tank. Look at him propped up. He's a really great fish actually. I was thinking about getting rid of him and I'm really happy I didn't, because he's like the mascot of this tank. It's just so funny how this tank has evolved and changed so much, and it's so gorgeous now. I bring a lot of friends down here who aren't really in the hobby. They look at this tank and they just go, wow, that's a really great looking tank. Very natural looking with the wood and how the sand, how it actually naturally just increases over here. It's like a nice slope. I'm not sure if it's because of my wave maker, but it's actually pointed up. But got the cories in here. One of these cories is actually my first fish ever. The 3 cories are doing great. I counted it out the other day. They went from the 10-gallon tank into a 55-gallon. From the 55-gallon into a 125. From the 125 back into the 10-gallon. From the 10-gallon into the 29. So they've been in 5 different tanks now. It's crazy since I've had them. Now I know that's not so great, but they're great fish. I mean, they're doing really well too. The tilapia, if you guys remember again, it's Florida fish. He's getting some excellent color on him for such a small fish. Look at this peacock bass, and if you know peacock bass, they change so much in color and size. This tilapia is showing almost like matured colors. Look at the red on his top, fin and his eye. They typically start showing that coloration when they're older. He's going to be a really great fish, most likely because of that coloration. This is a male. Excellent fish. You rarely see them in the hobby. I'm so happy I got him from my subscriber from Florida. Craig, you the man. That's it, I think, for this tank, though. The new light's doing great. The plants, I had a real big issue with the fluorescent. So when I upgraded to the LED, these plants, flourished like crazy. Flourished. But stocking-wise, that's it for this tank. Oh, and I also have a rubber lip pleco. It's right back there. Right up top of that cory. He's cleaned up this tank so nicely. I didn't even quarantine him. I really should have, but I had such an algae issue, and I kind of gambled with it. I put him in. This tank was super clean in a matter of seconds. So if you have a dirty tank for algae-wise, be sure to get one of those rubber lip plecos. But just like before, on to the next one. So up next, we got the 125. Now, this tank has changed the most out of the tanks you've seen so far. Oh my god, what is that? That plant just jumped up there. That plant likes to move. Because now I removed the background. I just thought the background was just so tacky on this, and it's been bothering me for months, and months and months, that the blue, it was like an ocean background I had, and I was just got really sick of it, and I switched it out and added more wood and got rid of my flower pot, and I wanted to go for a more natural look, like my 65 and my 29. Now, it's tough to do it with South American cichlids, just because they really just demolish tanks. Since I've actually set this tank up this way, I've had to put my hands in this tank and edit and move stuff and really try and get stuff in permanent locations. I have so much to talk about this tank, I don't even know what to even say first. The fish that ripped apart the Bichir was this fish. Okay, this is a Parachromis. I'm going to say Parachromis because I don't know. It's breathing like that right now because I just fed it, and you can essentially see the 65 glare here. But that is a... So, I actually have, if you're a long-term follower or subscriber to me, you knew I had a Jaguar that I actually needed to rehome because it was super aggressive. But I love the Parachromis species so much. So, this was actually sold to me as a Freddy, a Frederick Stahlier. You know, there's a lot of different names. A Freddy cichlid for short. Upon further research, I really... You see the pellet in his mouth. I really don't think that this is a Freddy. I do believe this is a Loeselli or Loeselli. There's a lot of different, pronunciations for these, just because of the looks of them. So, typically Freddys have bars that go up and down them. The Loesellis have more of a thick line. Now, you don't really see any bars on him. It's just really good. And you also see like a lavender top. The Loesellis have that. But they're actually, Loesellis and Freddys aren't, but Loesellis are actually one of the most, they're, take this with a grain of salt, but they're the least aggressive Parachromis. Like the Managwens was super aggressive, and I even had that with my own experience that I actually need to rehome it. Jack Dempsey's doing good. As I said before in the last video, his coloration is really getting mature now. My Oscar's actually showing a little bit more aggression. There is the tilapia. He's grown, the other tilapia. Now, I think that this might be a she, because the coloration is not as great, but obviously still a great looking fish. The hoplos are doing good, as that one's doing a handstand looking for food. Pike's still down there in the bottom. Firemouth is growing nice and slow. Shovel nose is looking good. What else we got here? We got the apple snail in this tank. Thinking about rehoming him because the Oscar is killing him like crazy. One of the apple snails died since you last saw him. And my Royal Pleco has died as well. It just died yesterday. It was so upsetting. The Royal Pleco was one of my first rare fish I bought. I went through leaps and bounds to get him. I spoke to someone when I got that gold nugget, which is going to be replacing him in this tank. That is why I got him a little bit bigger. The Royal Plecos typically grow about 1 inch per 6 months. They grew so slow. Mine barely even grew since I got them. So I needed to make sure that the next Pleco that I get... Actually, I'm going to move. Look at the rubber lip over there. He's so funny. But good thing to zoom in on right now. I actually think I starved my Royal Pleco. Now, Royal Plecos eat wood. I had tons of wood in there. But apparently that can't be their only diet. I still look at all the algae I have on this tank. Look at that rock. There's tons of algae in here that wasn't really eaten. Now, they're not really the greatest, as we're missing this. They're not really the greatest algae eaters, Royal Plecos. What is he doing? But the reason why I also went up with this setup is because I noticed also that with my old setup that I really didn't have a lot of open space. And these fish are going to get big in this tank. And I need open space for these big fish as they get older. So, I have more sectionalized areas. And it's more of a natural look, I think. I got the Amazon swords. I got Java ferns. And that's about it. I tried Java Moss in this tank, did not work out whatsoever. It was gone in a matter of literally like days. But I have to go in there and replant that. It's stuck in my wave maker. But I think that's it for this tank. Really great tank. I can't wait. As you can see, there's a lot of algae. Even on the front of the glass. I clean it, once in a while, but we'll see what happens. The aggression in this tank is definitely picking up, which isn't necessarily a good thing, but it's something to look at and somewhat maybe look forward to. I'm not really. I like cichlids. I know that there's aggression that comes with them, and I just don't want to. I don't want a bloodbath in this tank. If it ever has to come to that and rehoming needs to happen, I have no problem doing so. But next up, we have the 5-gallon tank. Now, I actually didn't want to shoot a video of this tank until it was fully ready, but if you are a subscriber already, you saw that I posted a video the other day of my Geophagus that I added into this tank for my 125. Now, I basically purchased this tank because I have a lot of fish, and I kind of realized that I bought probably too many fish, and I needed a bigger tank. Look how I'm shooting it from below now. This is a pretty big tank. It's a 65. It's really tall. These geos never do this. They're actually very skittish. But I just fed them, so maybe that's how come they're coming out. They typically always hang out behind the plants. But stocking wise in here, I have my geo in the middle, which it's a female, that I've always had. To the right of it, it's the male geo, which is a little bit smaller. I just purchased this geo, this little guy. Pretty sure it's a female. And then in the back, I have another rubber lip pleco, which is a rubber lip pleco. So this tank, again, I went for the same setup as the 29-gallon. I have this white, I just noticed this now, I kind of went and put my hand in there before and scrubbed it all out. I think that might be algae. It's like white algae. I remember back in the day, I used to get that on my 55-gallon. I guess this tank's been up and running now for about a month to 2 months, I'd say. It might be just too young, to get any, brown algae. But I did have brown algae, if you look close. See if it comes in. See the brown algae? So I'm not really sure why it's coming in white like that. Not really that good looking, but I tried my best to clean as best as I could before doing this video. But nothing really to say about this video. If you remember, the female geo dug a big hole in the back there and pushed it all over here. Nothing came from that. I came back down here the next morning. All the sand was pushed back to where it was, and it was back to being level, which is kind of interesting. But this tank's pretty right now. I tried to get them to breed, and they've only been there for a little bit. I think I need to do some, add a dither fish in here, or something that will take them out, because I think they're very skittish. I don't think the geos are really, I don't think that they trust me yet since I scooped them out of the 125. It was really hard getting them out of there, and they kind of hated me for about a week. They didn't even want to look at me. And they rubbed off on this guy because he doesn't even want to look at me. He used to come, or she used to, when I first got her, he used to swim around just like this. And always used to be out. And now she hides like them. So he's picking up some bad behavior from them, but it's fine, I guess. It's not going to happen forever. So I'm thinking about adding the golden top minnow in here, and also the Jupari. The Jupari is going to end up in this tank at one point or another. I just wanted to see, what would happen just with the 3 geos in there with the rubber lip, but I'm not sure. I might have to just give up on the whole breeding process. I was thinking about maybe putting like one of those flower pot holders on the bottom here to see if they'd lay their eggs on there. But as time progresses, I don't know. I don't know if they're going to breed, but we'll see what happens. Everything's always changing. And my Oscar, I know this is the 60. This is for the 65 again, but we're kind of done with this tank. My Oscar's been so aggressive. He just went after the tilapia like really hard, and I don't know what it is. Ever since that Royal Pleco died, he's been like this. Maybe he's like his buddy died. but nobody's really got any rips or tears on them. You know, he just chased after the tilapia. Look at the tilapia. And he's showing great colors now because he just got chased after. But they'll all be okay. But that's going to do it for this one, guys. I know the video was kind of long, but you know, not a lot to catch up on. It's been a while since I made a video. But if you're not subscribed already, be sure to subscribe. The videos will be coming more often now. I promise you that. It's, you know, at the end of the summer, I was getting kind of lazy with making the videos. A lot was going on. I should have documented it more. I did document some stuff, but I really didn't like the videos I made. It was kind of just me blabbering around, which I kind of don't want to make it. But I also kind of just blabbered for probably about close to 20 minutes. But I covered about a month and a half worth of stuff, so like I said before, be sure to subscribe if you're not already subscribed. These videos will come early and often, and you're never going to want to miss what's going on. Let me know what you think in the comments below, what you think of this video. Peace!